Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home.
Today we have a vintage State Series lighter featuring the great state of Oklahoma. I've had several of these State Series lighters and other similar or related petrol lighters over the years, but have always wanted to own one for my home state. So glad to have found this a couple of weeks ago at a local vendor mall. And today we are going to add a Flint fuel and see if it will function. Really cool lighter, which does have some blemishes. It's got the Capitol building, which now has a dome on it. This lighter was probably produced in the 1940s or 50s, well before that dome was placed on the Oklahoma State Capitol. I think it was after the year 2000 when they finally finished that. So, seal of the state of Oklahoma. It says Great Seal of the State of Oklahoma, 1907. And you can see the old unfinished Capitol building and the oil derricks that littered the Capitol grounds for years and years. And there are still old oil derricks there on the Capitol grounds today. This is a Wales lighter. These were pretty common brand of this particular style of State Series painted graphic lighters. This was actually free to me over at a local vendor mall because I'd bought two lighters out of the same booth. They had them listed $10 a piece, and if you buy two you get one free. So we've got our Flint spring and screw pulled out here. We will install our Flint, drop that right down the tube. Followed by the Flint spring and screw. Before we tighten it down, try to strike it a few times, get that Flint grooved in the right direction. And you can feel that wheel grabbing a hold of the Flint, but it also feels like the wheel may be a little dirty, like it's not grabbing that Flint real cleanly. I'll get that tightened all the way down with our thumbnail. And you can see we've got a spark, but we do not have a spark on every press of the plunger. Getting a little bit better spark there though as we continue to work that plunger and get that Flint grooved a little deeper. We'll go ahead and pull out the fuel screw. I think we probably need at least 6 or so plungers of fuel. Number 1. See that backing up when I try to rush it in there a little too fast. We'll try to do this a little slower. So it's always nice when you can acquire a lighter and just install a flint, fuel it up, and the lighter will work, and work flawlessly. Now, from the spark that we were getting as we were testing this mechanism there before fueling it up, I do not expect that this lighter is going to work flawlessly as it is. But this video and what we do in the video will give us an idea of whether or not the mechanism needs to be taken apart, cleaned up, and worked into a little bit better operating order, which is typically the case. As you saw that this lighter was sparking. It may have even been sparking 2 or 3 out of every 5 presses of the plunger, but it was not sparking with each press of the plunger. And it does seem like it's getting about 3 to 5, or 3 out of every 5. Looks like there's a couple of spots there on that wheel that may be dirty. A couple of rotations right there next to each other. But we were getting enough spark there that I think we should have had ignition if we had the fuel level where it needed to be. So we'll go ahead and add another dropper or 2 of fuel. So that gets us up to about 8 or so. And it would be encouraging if this lighter would strike up, even if we do need to take the mechanism apart and get it working a little better to have it operating more flawlessly and more dependably. Let's just see here. Wick is not damp yet or anything like that. Also doesn't really seem to be causing vapor lock. So maybe we are just not quite there yet with the fuel level. A couple more droppers. And you can see that absorbent wadding is still drinking that up. Thumbnails are a little bit more forgiving on these old screws than screwdrivers. That's why I like to use thumbnails or fingernails when I can. So you've seen a lot of striking so far and no igniting. Also not getting a dependable spark on every strike. And I believe we've got at least 10 droppers of fuel in there. No fuel dripping back out the bottom yet, but also not igniting. We'll add a couple more droppers, assuming that part of that ended up in my hand. It's just because I squeezed a little too fast. And that appears to be completely full there. You can see that we're going to have to shake all that off. So I'm going to shake that out off camera. Alright, so the lighter is definitely full. We'll probably exhibit some vapor lock. And we definitely need to wipe off the outside of the slider. Make sure that we're not going to catch our hands on fire from the fuel that spilled out of it. We will probably need to do a little bit of work on the mechanism, get that working a little more reliably. So I'm glad to finally own one of these State Series lighters for my home state, the great state of Oklahoma. Until next time.